What happens to Georgia if they lose this weekend?
Get ready for the 3-point stance. 3 different minds, 3 different opinions. 3 dudes talking ball. It's Kenton. It's Jay. It's Zach. Time to bring the heat, boys.
Yes, it's the 3-point stance. Zach Blackerby, Kenton Gibbs here with you on a Thursday. Bama at Tennessee, obviously crucial for both teams. Also, I think there's some sneaky action in the ACC. We had a crazy comment from a head football coach. We'll get to that in a second. But is this a playoff game for Georgia? Is this a do-or-die situation for Georgia this weekend, Kenton?
No. If there's any team that can get in with 2 to 3 losses, right? Yep. And we knew this was going to be a side effect of the playoff. We were no longer going to hear, man, I'll tell you what, this team's got a couple losses, but nobody wants to see them. Man, this team, they've taken some bad breaks during the year, but I'll tell you what, they're 2 plays away. Well, they're going to get their chance to show whether or not they're that at the end. And I think this isn't necessarily a play-in game for Georgia, rightfully or wrongfully, by the way. I also want to throw that in because I'm a big believer that resumes have to matter and the games have to matter at some point in time. And when I look at Georgia, I struggle to say, hey, your resume has mattered at all in a meaningful way beyond the Clemson win. Beyond the Clemson win, what's your next best win right now if Georgia loses this game?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to bring up and ask you because normally you are the big resume guy. Why is Georgia the exception, or is the Clemson win enough?
No, that's my point. If you have, so let's say Georgia, and this is dependent upon Georgia getting to the end of the season running the table, by the way, because if you lose to Texas, you cannot then go on to lose to Ole Miss or Tennessee as well and still get in. That's too much. That's a bridge too far. Yeah. But I'm saying if you lose to Texas in this game and you win out, you still have a very good resume. I'm saying to this point right here, if I'm talking strictly your resume at this moment in time, I struggle to come up with, hey, that is a top 10, top 11, top 12 resume based on what I've seen from you so far. Clemson is a very impressive win. Clemson's win, that domination, that dismantling, that systematic, surgical, really, picking apart of Clemson looked beautiful. And again, it's aging like fine wine, baby. I'm telling you, it's aging like Angela Bassett. If you know, you know. But with that in mind, that game cannot be your only game of relevance. So this Texas game, they have to be competitive in this one, and they have to also run the table because a 3 to 4 loss team, that's a little excessive. I don't give a damn how many blue chips you have. I don't care how much we talk about, oh, this is a team that nobody wants to see. Well, you got 4 losses. Nobody's going to see you anywhere outside the Hyundai Sun Bowl. Congratulations.
Well, your only quality win would have been in August, on August 31st against Clemson at that point. But in a realistic scenario, I think they lose against Texas, and I think they beat Tennessee. I think they beat Ole Miss, and they finish the season at 10-2. I do think that'll be enough. I agree with you. But I think the way the committee is going to view Georgia is going to be way different than a potentially 10-2 Texas A&M, or if Ole Miss runs the table, which both Georgia and Ole Miss can't run the table in this scenario, but other 10-2 SEC teams, even an LSU, which I think could end the season at 10-2. They're going to view Georgia differently. Is that fair? Is it not? Personally, I don't think it is. I don't think it is because of the resume. If Georgia plays 3-4 top 20 teams this season, and sure they beat Clemson, but they lose to Alabama and they lose to Texas, and maybe they beat Tennessee, but you go 2-2 or 2-2 in the games that truly matter. I think you can find other resumes elsewhere, maybe even so in the conference.
Well, I would ask whose resume would be exponentially better than what we see from Georgia. And again, I want to give all due respect to, all of the teams that are in the SEC, because I'm not saying the SEC is dog water. They're just like every other conference. We can all be objective about this thing and say, hey, the SEC does have some absolute dogs there. It is an absolute gauntlet there.
Well, let's look at what we said yesterday. We said 4. We said 4 SEC teams.
Yes. 4
so SEC. in this scenario, Texas, we all agree on Texas.
Right.
In this scenario, you probably add LSU. You probably add Alabama.
Okay.
And then it's that next spot where it's like, do you take a Georgia? Does Texas A&M take care of business down the stretch? I have a hard time seeing a world where all that happens, but if they lose to Texas this weekend, it could, Kenton. And also Tennessee's in there too.
And to me, again, this is why I say the resume has to matter, the games have to matter. Yeah. Who won the games? Period. Who won the games? If we're projecting out for the future, that's a very different conversation because all of the matrices that could happen with all of these different win-loss results, it's virtually endless, right? But if we're just talking about, hey, is this a playoff game for Georgia? I would say no, but if they lose this one, every other game becomes an elimination game.
Yeah.
Because I'm struggling to say, okay, this is a 3-loss team that, yes, your losses would be to Bama, who is going to be a top 5-10 team somewhere in there.
Yeah. Texas, who's number one.
And then
Tennessee, wherever Tennessee finishes.
Or Ole Miss. You know what I mean? Like,
or Ole Miss, maybe. I'm not buying that one as much.
Not buying it either. That Lane Kiffin will let me down. You know, you got all the LSU fans chirping at me down. But you get my point. So I sit here and I say, if I'm asking, is this game a potential eliminator for Georgia? No. But what this game will do is put Georgia in a position, and again, only if they lose, puts Georgia in a position to where, hey, you need to win out. But I want to take this for the flip side for a second. Okay. If Georgia wins this game, that is complete anarchy. That is complete. If Georgia beats Texas, which is very possible,
it's totally possible, dude. It's totally possible.
We would be looking at chaos at a scale unknown because then who is your top dog in terms of the SEC? Not nationally, because we know Oregon moves up to the 1 slot if Texas loses, because Oregon has looked phenomenal all year, sure, or not all year, but as of late, sure. But with that being said, what the hell happens with the SEC at that point?
Well, you know who would be first? It's Texas A&M.
Yeah, and now,
LSU's undefeated too, I think. They just played less games in conference.
And here's the fun part about that. Now, we're talking about 3 to 4 teams, bid league. We have not mentioned Texas A&M as like relevantly possible to be there yet. Yeah. So, you know, this game here is not necessarily a playoff game in the sense of like, hey, if you lose this, you're eliminated on either side. But this is a more high stakes.
It ups the heat a little bit, though.
Exactly. It's a more high stakes version of Oregon versus Ohio State, because this is going to throw some monkey wrenches into things in a way that Oregon and Ohio State didn't, because the Big Ten is very much so a 3-horse race, because I have to throw Penn State in there. It's a 3-horse race right now.
Yeah, but you love throwing Penn State in there.
Oh, I love throwing Penn State. I love me some Penn State. I love the King brothers. I love them to death. I love the boys who bled the green and white. I love all the boys from Second Avenue. You know, Cass Tech number 1, second to none. But Penn State is Penn State. You know?
Yeah.
But it is a 3-horse race as opposed to the SEC, where we just mentioned how many different teams all throughout.
5 or 6 teams that all have a path, a legitimate path to the college football playoff. Hey, Ken, I don't know if you saw this, but Neil Brown, the head coach at West Virginia, said one of the craziest things publicly that I've seen in a hot minute. Like, the lack of unawareness is pretty amazing. Let's jump into that next here on the 3-point stance.
And before we jump into Neil Brown and his craziness, let's jump into the craziness of these bets. NFL fans, college football fans, baseball fans, WNBA fans, it doesn't matter. You can start the season winning big with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, when you check out the latest stats, when you view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page, you can then place the most informed bets possible. You'll get started with $200, 200, folks, in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. I don't know about y'all, but I love something for the free 99. Now, all you got to do is a $5 bet, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. How about it? That's FanDuel.com. Visit FanDuel.com to look at the odds. And trust me, if you don't believe in any of the teams that we've seen so far this year, it does not matter, because, again, even if you lose that first 5, guess what you got to fall back on? $200 in bonus bets. There is no better place to be during this season of footballing league than FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com right now.
Thank you so much for making the 3-point stance your first listen every single day. We truly appreciate it. So for context, West Virginia is not off to a good start. They're 3-3. I think that fan base expected a little bit more from them this season. Neil Brown was asked Monday night. I assume this was on his coach's show. Coach, do you have a message for the fans of your program that might be a little upset? Here is his response. I get they want to win, but I would say did they have a good time? Did they enjoy it? It was a pretty good atmosphere. I'm assuming they probably had some good tailgating. It's for fan enjoyment. And I would come back. I looked at the weather. It's going to be nice again. It's a night game. We need them to provide a home field advantage. Did y'all have a good time? I know we lost, but wasn't it fun? Didn't you have fun tailgating? What, Neil Brown? Are you kidding me?
My head coach is Dave Doran over here, and he's also having a little tip with the fans that, some people are drumming up, by the way. I don't think that Dave Doran is taking shots at the fans, but he has peripherally mentioned the fans. And I want to tell something to all college football coaches. Stop mentioning your damn fans. If you don't have a ring on your fingers, the only time you should be mentioning fan is if you are playing Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar. You understand? That is the only time I want to hear you talking about fans. Maybe if it's during the summer, you talk about how you're going to cool off the players. Other than that, shut your tail up. This is the thing that bothers me so much about this. If you win it, they will come.
Yes.
If you have rings, they will come. Kirby Smart talking about, hey, we need a better fan environment. He got y'all rings down there in Athens, okay? Say what you want about the man. When's the last ring y'all had before? Okay. So with that in mind, he has earned the equity to talk to the fans in a certain way. He has. All of these other coaches, your Neil Browns, your Dave Doors, your all this of the world, you don't have the equity. And again, this is with all due respect to these two gentlemen, because again, Dave Doran is the winningest head coach in NC State history. Neil Brown, I'm sure he's done great things over there at West Virginia. I know it's not exactly the Rich Rod era. That white. Listen, he's been up and down. I know he's been up and down. I know. I'm just saying. I'm sure that he's done great things to get there, and don't want to disrespect or diminish his accomplishments in any way. But with that in mind, I want to make it clear: shut the hell up about the fans if you have not given them a reason to walk around their office with pride carrying that WV on their chest. If you have not given them reason to scream during Sweet Carolina, eat you-know-what pit, if you have not given them the opportunity to sit here with pride in their hearts, because my alma mater is kicking ass and taking names, what are we doing here?
Yep.
Go ahead and just keep it real quiet when they start talking about the fans.
Yeah. And I mean, let's try to be objective here. Like the West Virginia losses aren't awful. Penn State at Pitt against a ranked Iowa State. I think they're a little overrated, but they're certainly a decent program. So it's not like he's getting upset by terrible programs, but it's just you can't say that. Yeah, you're off to a tough start. Well, everybody had a good time, right? Like it was fun. Yeah, get out of here.
Again, my thought on this is simple. If I was a head coach, here's the only thing I would ever say about the fans. Ken, the fan support is dwindling. You're 3-3. What's going on? What's happening? Well, have we put something on the field for them to support? Have I coached this team to a product that I would feel good about?
Accountability? Taking responsibility for things?
Listen, especially in West Virginia. I would specifically say West Virginia is, again, per capita, one of the poorest states in America. And I'm asking people to come spend their money on a $50, $100, $200 ticket, spend $10 on a root beer float and $10 on a hot dog. You get them both together for $16 as a part of a package deal or whatever the case may be. Yeah. And have I put something on the floor that they can, or on the field that they can watch and they can say, I take such great pride in this. I take such joy. I find such joy from what my team is doing that I feel amazing about it. And if I have not done that, then hey, I understand why. Trust me, I had to pay $8 for a watermelon the other day in the store. I wouldn't come pay to see this either. Okay, so fans, I'm working as hard as I can to get this thing right. But right now, we're not right. Everybody's doing everything we can to roll it in the right direction to where we don't just have good losses, we get good wins, but we're just not there right now. And I apologize to you all for that.
Yeah, but we're having a good time. We're having a good time.
Yeah, right. Having a good time. Yeah,
sure. I want to pivot to the ACC. So 6th-ranked Miami heads to Louisville for an 11 o'clock Central Time kick on ABC this weekend. Ken, we've talked before about, okay, if the ACC wants multiple teams in the college football playoff, they need Miami and Clemson to keep winning. Yeah. Louisville going into the season, they were really kind of seen as this like solid football team. I didn't really see it, but they stayed ranked for, I think, longer than they should have. But whatever. You're the ACC guy here. Is there any chance this is a bad situation for the conference? Louisville, a team that a lot of people respected. They've kind of been beat up a little bit. They're no longer ranked. The most important team in the ACC is heading to Louisville this weekend. I mean, am I reaching too much here?
I don't think you are, but I also want to point out something here. We cannot talk about the SEC cannibalizing each other and talk about all these great teams and then look at the ACC and say, could you lose to a bad team? Louisville's only losses on the season are to Notre Dame, which I believe Notre Dame is in the top 15 or top 11 or so right now, and a loss to SMU, whose only loss came at the hands of a BYU team that looks like an absolute buzzsaw, by the way. BYU is looking like, hey, we're running away with the Big 12. Iowa State come catch up, even though Iowa State is undefeated as well. But, you know, that will sort itself out. Those are the two losses that Louisville has. So I'm not quite sure where this narrative that, like, Louisville ain't that team is, but I don't think it's a bad situation for the conference if the games matter and if we're actually looking at these things, not by the brand, but by the team you actually beat or the team you actually lost to. I don't see how this could be a bad situation for the conference, because to me, if anything, it then pushes Louisville back into the national conversation in some regards. Maybe not as a top 10, top 15 team right away. I think that'd be ridiculous, but pushes them back into the national conversation. You know what? If Louisville runs the table, could they end up as a team that goes to an ACC championship this year because they only have one loss in conference, and then they would win the tiebreaker because of head-to-head with Miami, so they could find themselves being an ACC champion potentially. And then what do you make of that? If they end up in an ACC championship and Clemson or Miami gets bumped out of playing in the game altogether, and, you know, Miami gets bumped out by them, what does that look like? So I don't really think that it's a bad situation for the conference in terms of Miami potentially losing. And I also want to throw out the fact that I have talked about this ad nauseum, and people think I hate Miami because of it, but I'm just stating a fact. Miami has struggled against every Power 4 team that is like seemingly stable. We all know why Florida does not count in that group. Let's not play around. Let's not. So with that in mind, you know, I wouldn't say like this is a foregone conclusion in the old Snellenberger Bowl here.
Yeah. It's interesting if Louisville does win out and make the ACC championship game. I kind of wonder if they were to lose it and they have 2 losses, would they take the team that's left out over them? I think that'd be an interesting scenario to see just how the College Football Playoff Committee views this new era, like is making the game more important than overall losses in the grand scheme of things.
Well, I think that's very interesting. I think it's very interesting. And luckily enough, see, this is one of the unintended side effects of all the expansion. Everybody doesn't get to play everybody. It's too many teams in conference to have. And then if you like created a schedule where all the tough teams play each other, then it's you've just given one of these cupcakes a clear path to the ACC or to your conference.
You're right. Miami and Clemson not playing each other, like that stinks. And like I want to see them play in the championship game because I think that's going to be a huge game this season. But
and in terms of Louisville, they get a chance to upset the apple cart not once but twice. They get a chance against Miami this week. They get a chance against Clemson later on down the road. So they have multiple cracks at this thing. So to me, it's not a bad situation for the conference if Miami loses on the road at Louisville. I think it's a positive for the conference to say, hey, look, we're not just TDE. This ain't just, hey, we got 2 at the top and everybody else is just kind of around. This is everybody eats. This is equitable. This is, hey, we just set up the environment for the games to be played, but I'll be damned if you say we ain't playing good ball beyond these two.
Yeah. Yeah. The ACC is fascinating because it's been narratively two teams,
right?
But it only takes one win from Louisville this weekend to really shake things up, and it could happen. It could happen.
And SMU doesn't play either one of these teams either, and they're also in that hunt.
You're right.
Shout out to the Dallas. Free my dog Sherwood Blunt. Allow him back on campus. Get those boosters back. They just did NIL 40 years early.
Yep. That's right. It's legal now. It's legal now. Let them back.
It's legal.
Bama at Tennessee. Crucial game this weekend. We jump into that next right here on the 3 Point Stance. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Hims. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That is HIMS, hims.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Thank you so much for making 3 Point Stance your first listen every single day. Alabama heads to Tennessee. Similar conversation that we had about Georgia and Texas, but both of these teams have lost already. And to me, I see Alabama kind of in the same realm as Georgia, where I think the committee would really still consider them with 2 losses. With Tennessee, I don't know, Kenton. Oop, Kenton, you're muted.
Oh, Lord. The big Tennessee lobby is trying to get me. I got into it with Vol Twitter earlier. Apparently, they coming from my microphone. But I will say this.
They're crafty. Those Vols fans are crafty.
Let me tell you something now. But in all seriousness, I agree with you 100%. I don't think that Tennessee will be seen as that type of team. Yeah. However, here's the most interesting part about this. They remember when I said, hey, Georgia, if they win this game, if they lose this game, has to win out. I put Tennessee in that same category because they're going to have an opportunity again to sneak in the playoff, to backdoor their way into the playoff. Even if they lose this game, if you beat Georgia convincingly and Georgia has won out, before that game and after, you'll go ahead and find your way. You'll be knocking on the door. You and Nico will be clawing at a spot. Like, you don't want to keep us out for real. You don't want to keep us out. So, it's just one of those things where ultimately we are early in the season. There's still a ton of football to be played. So it's like, I feel like Dr. Strange right now. There are a million scenarios to where we could get there. And it's not going to be till we get to the end of the regular season where I'm like, there's only one. This is the path now. Now that we've seen all the dust settle, now that we've seen, right now it feels like a giant cartoon gang fight where, all you see is dust and eyes coming out and all that. That's what you got going on right now in the SEC and really in the college football playoff picture. But at some point in time, all of the hoopla, all of the riffraff will kind of settle out. And I'm not sure which side of that Tennessee ends on, but I am sure that this is not Tennessee's last opportunity to play their way in.
I think you can make the case that Tennessee's resume is better than a lot of what we've seen so far. They beat a ranked NC State team. They beat a ranked Oklahoma team. And then, like you said, they'll get the opportunity to play Georgia. But in this scenario, they beat Kentucky. They beat Vanderbilt on the road, something that Bama couldn't do. And I think when you add all that together, like I do think their argument, their case will be better than several teams. And this will work itself out, like you said, because they play Georgia on November 16th. But right now, like I think Tennessee's resume is better than pretty much every team that we've discussed today.
And let's take a moment here to say for Bama, right? I'm sorry. If the CFP committee is to say, hey, your games matter, everybody's games matter, what you do in these games is important, how do you look at a Bama team if you're looking at a team with how many losses would that be if they lost here as well? And you're constantly seeing a team that is struggling or underperforming to some extent that you can say all day and night, well, it's Bama and it just means more and all this type of stuff. But the reality is you're looking at a team that you would say, hey, you have a huge win, massive win over Georgia, but you struggle time and time again against quote unquote inferior opponent.
I don't think that matters because it's going to work itself out with their schedule. I mean, they play Tennessee, they play Missouri, they play LSU, they play Oklahoma, they play Auburn. And to me, I just think
you didn't have to throw they play Auburn in there. You didn't have to throw that in there at all. But go ahead, proceed.
But I just think it's either they're going to win these games or they're not. Like if they win all these games, I don't care if they do have 2 losses. If they win all the other ones, I think you have to put them in.
Well, yeah, I'm agreeing with you, but I'm saying that it puts Bama in a different situation, in a different light. If you win this game, I feel like Bama has one more loss they could chalk up to a mulligan, right? They win this game, you could go forth and lose one more, and it's like, it's a great resume. It's a really good resume. If you lose this one and another one, now you're on the outside looking in. You need some help. Right now, you still control your own destiny, and you're in the driver's seat in terms of getting in the playoff.
Right.
But if you lose one here, you're in the back seat telling them, hey, can you play that Mariah Carey song I like, please? You know the one with ODB, please and thank you.
Can you sing it? Can you sing it for us?
Absolutely not. Not today. Not today. I normally would sing, but not today. I'm not gonna do it for you.
What's the bigger knock against Alabama's resume? Road loss to Vandy or Kalen DeBoer's wardrobe choices?
Listen, I get it. You're used to Bear Bryant and the fedora. I understand. You're used to Nick Saban.
I didn't have a problem with it, Kenton, until the fan base bullied him and he shows up in a collared shirt at his next appearance. I didn't have a problem with it until he caved.
Yeah, I'm a big be who you are guy. I'm a big hey.
You can't let a fan base bully you if you're a head coach. You can't do it.
And this is.
But we had a good time, right? We had a good time.
I've already talked about the fans from one aspect. But see, this is what I mean, right? Coaches leave the fans alone and ignore the fans. You understand? To some extent. Ignore the fans to some extent. Because the reality is this. Who pays your checks? Is it the fans? No. Are you beholden to the fans to some extent? A slight modicum of what you do is, you don't want to
lose the fan base.
Sure. You don't want to lose them. But you know what wins over a fan base like Bama?
Winning.
Rings, baby. Them
Keep
rings.
winning. Yeah.
Keep winning. So, I'm a big believer of, as Jay-Z said, you could try to change, but that's just the top layer. Homie, you was who you was when you got here. You are who you are, Mr. DeBoer.
Yeah.
Be who you are. All year long, coach. Be who you are. You do not need to change. Don't get me wrong. Changing, evolving, I understand it, right? As a man that's not even 30 yet, I'm still going to change and evolve multiple times in life myself. And capitulate to different people in my life that I feel like are that important. But I don't think that, Bama Willie is that important. I don't think that,
depends on who you ask.
Listen, I don't think that Roll Tide Roll 46 on Twitter is that important to say like, oh man, I really got to change my wardrobe around because RTR 46 is saying that I just, he's 3 seconds away from not being upset at hearing War Eagle anymore because I wore a t-shirt and we lost. The worst knock is the fact that he changed his wardrobe. And I'm going to tell you, Vanderbilt is being a team that upsets the apple cart a little bit this year is exciting. That's exciting.
It's so good for college football.
I love teams that upset the apple cart. I love the fact that goalpost is now in the Cumberland River. I love all of it. I love all of it. Give me more of it, but give me less wardrobe changes. Be who you are. No need to disrespect the fans. No need to go out and say, no need to say, hey, I don't care how you feel. Did you have a good time, Tail?
Did you have a good time?
Did they throw some mustard on the link? Did they throw some mustard on the link, Zach? That's what I need to know. Did they have a good Hawaiian rolls on the sliders?
Oh my gosh, Neil Brown. Neil Brown. Oh my goodness.
But you also don't need to change what the fan is short for fanatic. Since when do we expect fanatics to be logical, reasonable, sane? Listen, go ahead and do your due. What got you to Alabama is what got you there. And you may need to tweak and adjust some things slightly, but there is no second Nick Saban. There is no second. It's like being the next center after Wayne Gretzky. You can't go in and say, I'm going to be Wayne too. Yeah. No, he's the great one for a reason. Be the best you can be, and whatever that looks like.
Thank you so much for making 3 Point Stance your first listen every day. For your second listen, go check out our buddy Spencer McLaughlin, host of Locked On College Football. It's on the same YouTube channel or same audio feed. For Kenton Gibbs, I'm Zach Blackerby. This has been the 3 Point Stance.